Hi, good evening, everyone. Julia O'Hara here with USF Housing and Residential Education. I'm here with our housing expert, Dave Kloiber. Hi, Dave. How are you?
I'm good. It's great to be back in this wonderful new year.
We are so excited to have our first live of the new year, 2023. And thank you to everyone who's joining us tonight, whether you're watching on Facebook or you're on YouTube. Make sure that you drop your questions that you have in the comments, and I'll get them here and ask Dave live on the show. We're also going to go through some questions that I've pre-planned for you. Tonight, we're really focusing on the 2023-24 term. So we're talking about the housing application to live on campus, whether you're looking at coming in the summer or the fall, what that process looks like, and what room selection will look like, as well as forming roommate groups and things like living learning communities. So if you have any questions related to those items or anything else related to housing, we're happy to answer. If you have any USF questions, you can try that too. Dave's been here for a long time, so he may have some insight. He might have some insight on any questions that you have. But we're going to be talking mostly about housing tonight. So, Dave, are you ready to get started?
Born ready.
All right, let's do this. Let's start with just talking about the housing application. So, the summer 2023 housing application is open, same with the fall spring 23-24 housing application. So, how would a student go about applying to live on campus? What do they need to do?
Sure. Well, for our continuing students, those who have already lived on campus or those who are currently attending the university, they just need to go to their housing portal, log in with their NetID and password, and go to the apply link and then submit their application for either the summer or the summer, fall, spring, depending on which application they're looking to do.
Perfect.
Now, for our new students, they need to be admitted first. So once they're admitted, about the next day, our system will have it. Next business day. And so let's say you get admitted today. It may take a day or two for it to hit our system, for your account to be created, but then you'll be able to log into the housing portal, again, using NetID and password, and then submit the application that you're trying to submit.
And an important note, if you are planning on living on campus for the summer and the fall spring, those are two separate housing applications.
They are with only one exception, and that is
the ACE
our
program.
Student Support Services program,
SSS.
so our SSS program. They actually, because they are required as part of that program, they're the only group of students that are required to actually live on campus.
Okay.
But as part of that part of that program, they are required to, and so we do have a summer, fall, spring application for them.
Okay, and that only applies to that student
Only to
population,
that population.
SSS. So let's talk about the housing application. Let's say that I do want to live on campus for the summer and fall, spring. I need to submit two housing applications. Do I need to submit two $50 application fees per
Yes.
term?
Yes,
Okay.
you would. You submit one for each application.
Okay. And so that's the first step is apply to housing, submit the housing application, then submit your $50 application fee.
Yes, but the application fee won't actually make it to your account until the next business day after you apply for housing.
Okay.
So if you do your housing application on a Wednesday, it should hit your account on Thursday morning. Now, that's of course if we're working that day. So let's say you put in your application this Friday, which
Right.
is the 13th. Ooh, Friday the 13th. Dum, 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 dum. So let's say you put it in Friday the 13th. We are actually off Monday.
Right.
If you forgot, remember you're off Monday.
I did remember. Have it on my calendar.
So we wouldn't actually put that application fee on until potentially Tuesday.
Right. That's a great point. So just being aware of that. And there's one more step that you need to complete after you do those two. And we're already getting some questions from the audience about this, that one step is still pending for a lot of
Yes, it
admitted
is.
students that are on the ball, love to see it. Love to see that you've already submitted your housing application and $50 application fee. The third step you haven't been able to do yet, and that is because...
It's registration for orientation, and
Correct.
it won't open until February. So you want to make sure that you're following all the information on the orientation website as well, and make sure that when orientation opens up, if you want to get and make sure that you're ready for room selection, you want to make sure you submit your orientation registration early. Now, there is a caveat. In order to submit your registration for orientation, you do actually have to deposit your admission, do your admissions deposit. So
Correct.
some of our students may have a waiver depending on their situation, but most of our students do submit a $200 admissions deposit. Big note for that. The admissions deposit can only go toward tuition. It cannot go toward housing fees. So if you're looking at your account and you're like, well, I submitted my admissions deposit for $200. I did an application for housing. I have that $50 application fee on my account. Your account may say that you have a balance of negative $150. However, you still owe that $50. So you cannot use the admissions deposit to pay the $50.
Okay, we have some questions coming in specific about that. So I think that answers the questions that I am getting. If you have additional questions about that, I think that a case-by-case basis, individualized assistance might be helpful in that scenario with either your team, or would it be admissions with the deposit questions, or for Oasis?
With my team or with the cashier's office, actually.
Okay.
But they're never going to be able to apply that $200 toward the $50 application fee.
Okay. I do have a very specific question here that is from a student that is unable to sign up for orientation until they put down the enrollment deposit, but they've signed something that says that they cannot pay for more than one enrollment fee or could lose acceptance to all schools. So they cannot pay for their USF enrollment deposit until they have acceptance letters in February. So this sounds like something also that would benefit from individualized assistance.
Yeah, I would definitely reach out to admissions regarding that.
Okay, so that particular question, I think that the team over at admissions would be able to provide individualized support for questions in that detail. So we've gotten through apply for housing, pay the $50 application fee, and then on February 1st, is when people can start.
I believe so, but double check with the
Yes, it's on the
orientation
website,
website.
and we can drop that in the link right now if we have a link to, or in the comments right now, a link to register for orientation on that page. I believe it does say when it's expected to go live, but keep an eye out for details from the Office of Orientation, because that will be the third step, is to register for orientation, and then the next step after that is to select your room.
Right. So if you're looking at your application status in the housing portal, when you get those three items done, the application, and there's the agreement as part of the application. There is a caveat to the agreement. If you are not 18 yet, you will have to get your cosigner to complete your to cosign your housing application. How that works is an email is sent to the email address that you indicate for your cosigner, and then the cosigner will receive that. There will be a code and a link to click on the link, paste that code into the box where it says place this code, and then your cosigner will be able to cosign your agreement.
When you do apply for housing, does a confirmation come through? There's a question about, is it typical not to receive a confirmation?
The confirmation comes through, but you got to remember it goes to your USF email account.
Okay, so always be checking that USF email. You're going to hear that a lot throughout this broadcast, and probably any other office that you interact with at USF. All communications really do go to that USF email.
Yeah, definitely. So even if you you get emails, let's say from admissions, they'll send it to your what we call your admissions email account. Our system is set up to communicate primarily through your USF email account, and so if you've set up your NetID, you also set up your email account.
Correct.
So your NetID and your email are basically the same, except for your email has at usf.edu at the end of it.
So there are some questions coming in about, a student being in a position where they've been admitted to the university, but they're not positive if they're going to attend USF. So they're still exploring other options. So should they still apply to live on campus if they're not sure they plan to attend USF? And what would happen if they decide not to attend USF, but they've already applied and potentially even selected a room?
So there's a few scenarios there. So when you do an application for housing, you're not selecting a room, but you would be responsible for the $50 application fee.
Right. So if you decide not to come to the university, you don't receive that $50 housing application fee back.
Correct. Now, this is where it gets to be really critical. If you don't want to pay anything more than the $50, then you have a choice to make. When you submit your application and you pay your application fee, you're putting yourself in line to select your room, assuming you finish that third step. Then you're ready for assignment. Now, at this point, you have to decide, am I coming to USF, and do I want to live on campus? That's the decision you're making. If you're not sure, you run the risk of potentially having a cancellation fee. So in order to cancel your housing assignment, once you select one, our application indicates that you have 48 hours from the time that you select your room to change your mind, no questions asked. After that point, if you decide you're not coming to USF, that is a reason to cancel your housing application.
You're eligible for cancellation
You're
at that
eligible.
point.
That's one of the eligible reasons. I'm not a student. If you're not a student, you can't live in student housing.
But a fee is associated with that
But there
decision.
would be a fee after that 48 hours.
Correct. There are other eligibility criteria that come into play too when you're deciding not to live on campus. One of them, the biggest reason, is probably not attending the university.
Correct.
What are some other scenarios?
You've been called to active military service is one. During the time that the assignment is in effect, you get married. We don't offer married housing. And if you want to live with your spouse when you're married, then you would have to move off campus. You end up having to withdraw medically from the university. That's a reason you're graduating. That's another reason to cancel your application in the middle of it, or your assignment in the middle of the period that you're assigned for. But all of those are listed under Section 2 of the cancellation. I believe it's Section 4. Sorry,
In
of
the housing
cancellation
agreement.
of the agreement.
So
yeah.
that's just critical, I think, to when you're deciding whether or not to select a room. You go through that and make the decision that's best for you in your scenario. Because if you do not meet any of that criteria and you do not want to live on campus, you're tied to the agreement. You are paying
Correct.
for your space
Yes.
and living on campus. So we can't stress that enough, just to make sure that you do go through the housing agreement and understand that when you select your space to live on campus. However, we're talking about occupancy on campus, and we've been talking about that a little bit and what it will look like for the summer and fall spring term. And if you're adamant about living on campus and wanting to have that on-campus experience, it's crucial that you do submit your housing application and pay that application fee as soon as possible, because space on campus is limited.
And I think you're going to find that at a lot of college campuses,
Correct.
not just USF. I'm in contact with a lot of the housing offices throughout the state, for sure. But I also speak to people throughout the country, and everywhere we're all having shortages on housing. We as a field have really rebounded after the pandemic ended.
Correct.
And so living on campus is the place to live. We've experienced housing over demand for at least in the last couple of years.
Right.
We don't anticipate it going away. And what this really does for our students is it really moves up your timeline.
Correct.
We've actually moved up our timeline because it's been such a critical junction in a student's life right now to where do they want to go to school. And so it's not only USF that's going to be saying housing's limited, it's most of the schools that most of our students have applied to.
Correct.
And so what this does for our students is it's making all of you really think about, where do I want to go to school even earlier than they thought they would have to make that decision. The national decision deadline is May 1st.
Right. And that has moved up this year. Our room selection process is moving for this year, and
Right. We're going a month earlier than we did in the past.
and that's to accommodate all of you too, to make sure that you know where you're going to live and plan ahead.
Right. If we run out, we want to run out as soon as possible so that all of our students have the extra time to find something off campus.
Correct. And so we're getting a lot of great questions. Thank you everyone so much for tuning in. We're going to continue through the broadcast tonight and talk about a couple of different things that you are asking about. And we've touched on a couple of these things already. So at the end of this broadcast, you'll be able to go start it from the beginning and hear a little bit more about the housing application process and a little bit more about the application fee and the admission deposit and how those two work together. So let's talk about room selection.
Oh, the granddaddy.
What we've been talking about for internally a long time, and now we're
Yes.
talking with you all about it, so we're super excited to share this information. Like Dave said, we have moved our room selection to be earlier than in the years past. So let's talk about when room selection is for current and new students and how everyone can get ready for that.
Okay, so I'll start with the current students. So a current student is defined as someone who's already here at the university.
Right.
Either they've started this spring or they've started earlier. And so those are our current students, and they will begin their selection process on February 6th. So that is less than a month away, believe it or not. And so we have some stages for our selection process, which we'll go over. But they'll have from February 6th until February 17th. So that would be a Monday to a Friday. So I believe it's a Friday. 17th?
I do not know that information. That's impressive if you do.
Yes,
It's on our website.
I believe that's correct. But so they'll have the 2-week period in order to do their selection. And so and I'll explain the selection in a minute. For our new students, now our new students are defined as first time in college, so they're being admitted for the summer or fall of 2023, not the spring of 2024, because you're not a student yet, you can't live here for the fall. So if you're admitted for 2023 summer or fall, and you've received no college credits after, or I should say 11 or less college credits after high school graduation, you're considered a first time in college. Even if you're coming in after dual enrollment, having collected, 60, 70, 80 credits. I've actually seen someone with 90 credits after dual enrollment. They're still a first time in college student because they got them all before they graduated from high school.
Right.
And then the other category of new student is our new transfers. They would also be new students, and so they would also begin their selection time as a new student, all beginning on February 13th, and they will finish up on March 1st.
Right. So this is, you'll get assigned if you have all of your items done. If you applied for housing, paid your $50 application fee, and registered for orientation, you will be assigned a time slot
Yes.
to select your room within that window if you have everything ready beforehand. If you miss that, can you still select a room later on?
Yes. So once those 2 selection periods are over, we're going to shut things down for a little while, regroup, and then we'll reopen it again on March 6th.
Okay. So if you miss it, it doesn't mean that you can't live on campus. A lot of people will have selected their space at that point, so we don't know what your options will be.
Right.
So we can't guarantee that the room that you're looking for particularly or anywhere could potentially be available. So it's important that you do have things ready for that time period if you're interested in living on campus.
So we've done some new things this year with room selection.
Yes.
And that's where the stages come in.
Correct.
So last year we were looking at our room selection data, and we noticed that there were a large number of people that found other people they wanted to live with as roommates. And so they formed what we call a roommate group. And we'll actually demonstrate how to form one a little bit later in the
Love
show.
that. Love roommate groups.
So our some numbers I ran today where we had over 1,300 students form roommate groups
Last year.
last year before room selection started. that based on my experience and talking with my colleagues from around the country, is a huge number.
Yeah.
And so recognize, but we also heard that a lot of them weren't able to find a unit, whether it's an apartment or a suite or a room, together.
Right. Because they're going up
Because
against
of the way we
everyone
we
else.
did room selection. And we allowed an individual to maybe pick one room in an apartment, which prevented a group of 4 people from getting into that apartment.
Right.
Even though there were 3 empty beds, that 4th bed wasn't empty. And so we're going to give those with some roommate groups an opportunity to be able to use their roommate groups in the process.
Correct. So we're looking at this in a strategic way this year to make sure that we can accommodate the most amount of people for what they need and their needs.
Right.
So if you're a part of a roommate group, you will get a specific time slot within
Correct.
that room selection period, and that will go to your email.
Your USF email.
Your USF email.
That's right.
One caveat to this, though, is you have to make that roommate group
You do.
a week ahead, right? What is it, February 1st?
We're going to ask
for...
that you formed your roommate groups at least 5 days before your selection process starts.
Right.
Now, you can form a roommate group starting tonight. You don't have to have your orientation registration complete in order to form your roommate group. You do need to do your application and pay your application fee.
Do you need to do that in order to belong to a group?
Yes.
Okay.
You won't be able to join the group unless you've done at least those 2 items. You can do all 3. So for our continuing students, they've all gone through orientation because
Right.
it's a requirement.
They're ready to
So
start
they're
their
ready.
groups.
They can form a group as soon as I turn on that link tonight.
As long as they submit their housing application and pay their fee.
They're ready to go.
You're turning it on tonight, huh?
I'm going to turn it on tonight.
That's exciting. So you heard it here first, folks. Tonight you will be able to form those roommate groups, and we're going to walk you through that and show you what that looks like. But for those that may not be familiar with what a roommate group is, can you just give an overview of what it is, who's in charge of it,
Sure.
and that sort of thing?
So anybody can form a roommate group that submitted the application and paid their application fee. And they can invite anybody else who's also at least at that stage
Right.
with the application completed and the application fee paid. And so when you form a group, you can form a group up to a group of a total of 5 people. So yourself plus 4 others, because that's the largest unit that we have on campus.
Which is important to keep in mind, though. If you have 4 best friends that you want to live with in a group of 5, you need to
Basically, on one building you can
need to
live
understand that you are living in Kosovo.
Yes.
So just be aware if you also, if you have 2 best friends, there's 3 of you, you need to be aware of what your options will be when you do go and select as a roommate group. You
Right.
won't be able to see a unit that fits 4 people when you go
Because
into
we're going to
roommate group.
ask you, well, at least initially.
In the very beginning, yes.
Initially, we're going to say if you're going to go in as a group, you're going to fill your unit. A unit could be an apartment for 4 people, 5 people, 3 people, 2 people. Or it could be a suite that holds anywhere from 2 to 4 people. Well, 2 or 4 people, I should say.
Right.
Or it's going to be a room that holds 2 people.
Right. So you need to have a group. If you are set on a juniper poplar unit, which is a suite, so that would be 4 people. If you're totally set on that room and you have 3 people that you're participating in a roommate group with, my recommendation would be to join the class of 2027 Facebook group and find someone that you'd like to invite into your roommate group so that you can have a guaranteed entry into that suite style.
A chance.
Not guaranteed. Take it back.
I never use the G word.
Sorry.
G word's a very powerful word.
Yeah, I don't use that word in front of Dave.
So I can't even say it.
No, I know,
online.
you can't
I
even.
can't say it on
You will
camera or
have
anything.
a chance to select a
Yes.
juniper poplar suite that you
opportunity.
wouldn't have that with 3 people. And by the time we lift that restriction, your dream room may be gone at that point.
Right, and that's what we're trying to avoid. What happened last year?
Right.
Is we had some wonderful roommate groups. They actually had to, in theory, unfriend somebody to be able to
In
select
order
an
to
apartment.
fit in their what they're looking at.
Yeah, and then somebody was left out.
So we don't want that to happen. That's why we are
We're trying to be more
organizing
intentional.
it. We're being intentional and strategic of where people have access to select. But I just wanted to throw that out there, that if you and your friends are really set on a specific room and you would not fill it, I would find someone to help you fill that space for the best chance of choosing your dream room. But when it comes to room selection, we're not going to dive into room selection tonight, but it is a good idea to have your top 3 or 4 room styles ready to go when you do go in to select a room. That way, if you don't find what you're looking for your first option, you have a second option to take a look at, and then third option.
And got to remember that maybe there won't be an option. So, we have buildings and we have programs in our buildings.
Right.
And so when it comes to room selection, we have, let's say, our learning communities. They may have, among all the learning communities, taken up an entire building. So for example, the Juniper portion of Juniper Poplar will not be available during room selection.
Right.
Unless you're an
You
honors
shouldn't
student.
have used that as an example.
Yeah, it hurt when you said Juniper Poplar.
Right.
Because most of Juniper Poplar, both buildings, are learning communities.
And when you're in a living learning community, which we'll talk about a little bit tonight, but you cannot be in a roommate group
You could for honors.
because you select. That's the only living learning
Right.
community that you select your space.
Right. The others, you can form a roommate group and you can tell the learning community, this is my roommate group. However,
You don't.
they all need to be in the LLC.
In honors, is that the case as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Because it's honors housing until such time that they don't fill and we take it back to put our other students in.
Okay. What if a roommate is starting in the summer, but the other is starting in the fall?
That's fine. Because right now we're talking about fall.
Right.
Now, you couldn't be roommates in the summer because one doesn't start for another term.
Correct. And then in the fall, it's a different agreement like we talked about. So you're going to be going through room selection twice if you start in the summer, if you're
Correct.
planning on also being here for the fall.
Right.
So that is fine
And
too.
they're separate selection processes. Matter of fact, summer selection, I don't believe, starts until, I want to say March 6th or March 13th.
You're the date expert here, Dave.
I believe it's March 13th, but check our website.
Yes, it is officially on the website. If you go
It
to our
is.
calendar, we have them listed out that way. And then we just launched a full web page for room selection. We'll continue to update that to describe the process as much as possible. Like we said, this roommate group situation, we're doing it differently this year for room selection. The dates have changed a little bit too. So we'll continue to update that web page with as much transparent information as we can as we go through this process.
Yeah, so for our continuing students, you want to form all your roommate groups by February 2nd at 8 a.m.
So form them now.
Right.
Text your
So
friends. Call your friends
tonight,
right now.
After I launch it tonight,
Oh, right. Wait
you
till
have
Dave
time.
launches it.
You need to start moving and talking to your friends and making sure they've done their application, because if you try to call up their name, and I'll show you what that looks like in a few minutes, if they don't show up, it's because they're not ready.
They're not ready.
Or if they do show up, it'll tell you can't select them yet because they're not ready.
Right. We don't want that. We want everyone included. Okay, so let me see. We have a lot of questions here, so thank you everyone for all your questions. Let me see if I can jump on some of these before we share your screen and show you what to expect when you see that roommate group option. A lot of questions about summer and then fall roommate groups. Does the immunization form and residency form have to be completed and processed before you can select housing?
It does not.
Not this year.
This year we've taken off the requirement for immunization because you need that for classes. So we decided to just let that go for class.
LLC room selection question. So like we mentioned, if you are in an LLC, you will be assigned to your space by the living learning community unless you are part of the honors
Right.
LLC, then you do participate in room selection. And it's the only option at the Learning Commons at Juniper Hall. Honors College is just exclusively Juniper Hall, correct? There's no other.
They don't have another facility now.
Okay.
They do share Juniper with another program, but
Right. And are transfers able to live on campus? Absolutely.
yes.
You'll be able to select during the FTIC transfer room selection process.
Right. You're a new admit.
And everything else, here's one more before we jump in, and then I'll go through a few more later. Do you get to use scholarship funds? Whoop, moved it over here because I got another question. Do you get to use scholarship funds to pay for all of your housing up front, or is it paid incrementally each year?
So that's a great question. How do you pay for housing? So
Let's go with that.
that's an easier way to say it.
Yes.
How do I pay for housing? So scholarships are released at the end of the first week of the term. So that's when your tuition is due. That's when your dining is due. Now, if you have scholarships, actually those aren't due until what they call the deferment deadline, which is, I think, for the fall, it's sometime in, I want to say, late September. That's also the day that housing's due, regardless of whether or not you have financial aid. So you have extra time to pay your housing. So if your scholarships don't cover everything, you have extra time.
Right.
This is how your scholarships are awarded, are used in your account. When you get a scholarship, it's put into your account. Tuition gets paid first. If you have money left over after that, it'll go to housing. If you have money left over after that, it'll go to fees. If you have money left over after that, it goes to dining. And if you have money after that, it goes to you,
Nice.
the student, as
Love
a
that.
refund.
Okay. Thank
So
you.
yes, you could use your scholarship money to pay for housing if you have
Answer the
enough.
question. Yes. Okay. Perfect. I'm listening to you. I'm just going through the many amazing questions from the audience and making sure that we're hitting on everything. Like I said, if you're just joining us or if you feel like you haven't been heard yet with your question, we may have answered it earlier in the broadcast. So as soon as this ends around 7 o'clock, you'll be able to go back and rewatch it. And I will plug it again. Save the date for February 1st. We're going to do another one of these, and we're going to be going through the room selection process, giving you a preview of what to expect.
We're actually going to demo the whole selection, especially for our new students who haven't gone through it. Our continuing students, hopefully it'll look familiar.
Yes. Okay, one more question before I ask you to share your screen.
Yeah.
This is a great question. If existing students go first during room selection, could all of the rooms be gone by the time the new students get in there?
So no. We have identified rooms for our continuing students and identified rooms for our new students. And so we've never run out of rooms, even for our continuing population. Well, I shouldn't say never.
During room selection.
During room selection,
for
I think only
continuing.
once or twice did we ever run out of the beds we set aside for our continuing population.
Right.
And that was back when we had a first year live on a requirement, which we don't have right now.
Correct.
So I don't anticipate that occurring. We will have beds available for our first years.
Yes, we're making that a priority. It will be available. And just to clarify something you just said is that we're holding certain rooms for new students and certain rooms for
At
continuing.
least initially.
That being said, new students will be able to choose right during the very beginning of room selection. We have a room type from all of the different communities. So
Except for Cypress C and D. They
Cypress
won't be,
apartments.
and Kosov.
Okay.
Kosov apartments won't be for our first years either.
Okay, so that's just something to keep in mind if you're a first year student or a transfer student and you are looking at options. Just keep in mind that Cypress apartments and Kosov apartments are only for returning students. Continuing students.
One caveat.
Okay.
If you're a new student who, let's say you have a cousin or a sibling
Happens.
who came this year, and you want to live with them next year when you come to USF,
In a roommate group.
you can join their roommate group, and they can assign you as part of their roommate group when they do selection. And so that's the only time that you might end up in a building that would otherwise be for continuing students.
Got it. Little loophole
As
there.
a first year. But we recognize that that roommate pairing that you're going to have with your sibling or your cousin or your friend that was just a year ahead of you in school is more than likely going to be better than anything we can provide.
Yeah.
And so we value that, and we're going to say, you're not alone because you know this person you're living with or people that you're living with. And so you're not going to be just that one freshman in a building of sophomores, juniors, and seniors. You're going to be that one freshman living with your friend.
Right. You have an in.
You have an in, and so you won't feel isolated.
Okay. Love that. Okay, thank you. I'm going to keep my word on this one. No
Okay.
more questions from the audience, and then we'll share. Well, for now, we're going to get to more questions in a little bit. But we're going to share your screen, Dave, and you can show us what the roommate.
All right.
Group
So here we
processes.
are. We're at the housing website.
Look at that, live
Hope
Q&A.
you all know it.
That's happening right now.
That is
You should
happening
tune
right
in.
now. But we're going to click on the housing portal because we love the housing portal.
We do love the housing
And
portal.
so it takes us to the map. And so we show the map for a variety of reasons. There is housing at USF St. Pete. And so if you're interested or you're going to be attending USF St. Pete, that's where you'd go to actually apply for the St. Pete campus. And the big reveal, Sarasota Manatee will also be getting housing.
You have
one
so
day.
many Easter eggs happening tonight,
That's
Dave.
right. So that's why it's here. We're not going to select it tonight, but in
We're-
a couple of years, hopefully,
Maybe. I don't know.
that's what they're telling me.
All right. You know things, Dave.
Yeah. So it is actually out there.
Yes,
They-
okay.
They're
I
going to
didn't
break
know.
ground
You're-
next month.
we're being cryptic.
So yeah, definitely. If you're interested in that campus for the future, there
is
will be a
very
possibility
exciting.
for housing. So we're going to go to the Tampa campus because that's where we are. And so to set up your roommate group, you'll go to My Account and click on that. Then you'll go to Roommate Group Manager. And so right now I can see that there is a Roommate Group Manager there. I'm the only one right now that can see it.
Right. So if you are watching and you follow along, you will not see this
No,
because
you will
Dave's
not.
special and he creates these things. So
Not
he gets a
until
first look.
about 8 o'clock tonight. So I'm going to click on that, and it's going to take me into this wonderful document. It's going to tell me how I can create a group, join a group, leave a group, remove someone from my group, or remove myself from the group, which disbands the entire group.
That's cold, Dave.
So, hey, in the past, we would have this thing called a roommate pin, and you'd issue the pin to your friend, and then you type in the pin and assign your friend, and they'd say, well, it didn't work. And then we had to be the ones to tell you that they unfriended you.
Ooh.
So I'm really happy that
That's
we
awkward.
have this, because now I don't have to give you that message.
You have to tell your friends straight up.
That's right. So there are some questions here about creating a group, the common questions, but since you're talking to me, I'm not going to go over them. You can read them on your own. So we're going to go down to your roommate groups. I don't have one right now, but I want to create one. So I'm going to click Create. All right, and so I've created, here's screen demos, that's me, and my group. So I'm going to invite someone to join my group. What does that really mean? So I'm going to look for somebody that I know. If I know their university ID number, I can type that in, but I don't know that number off the top of my head, so I'm going to type in their name. Screen Test, because I want to live with Screen Test. I'm going to search for them. Screen Test is there. I'm going to submit.
What happens if you don't find your person?
Well, I can try that. I can put in some weird name if you want.
What
see if they show up.
happened? I mean, what would troubleshooting be like for that? Would you need to make sure that
So-
you're spelling it right, or would it be
Here, I'm
because
going to
they
type in somebody I know doesn't have an app yet.
Okay. Would it be because they have not submitted their housing application?
Let's see what that looks like. So I'm going to type in fake guy. Sorry. And I'm going to search for fake guy.
You found him.
I found fake guy.
He applied without telling you.
Submit. Pardon me. All right. The person you're trying to add does not have an application that's
Ah.
allowed.
That's smart.
So it's going to tell you
What the reason
fake
is.
guy exists. However, he either hasn't done his application. If I tried to add Julia and she had done her application and she identifies as female, I couldn't add you either.
Right.
You can only add people of the same gender. So, boy, it's a rough cough. So I'm not able to add them because of a variety of different reasons. So if you reach out and you find your friend, but that message comes up, call your friend.
Right.
Because your
troubleshoot
friend's
that
going to have to
together.
explain, oh, I didn't do my application fee yet, or I just paid it, and we won't know that you paid it until tomorrow.
Right. And I will take the opportunity to plug again the Class of 2027 group. And so if you're watching this and you really want the opportunity to live with someone that is similar to you and might have similar interests, it's important to you to, if it's important to you to find someone to live with that you know, want to know ahead of time, we have a Class of 2027 Facebook group that only admitted students to the university are accepted to. And you can go in and introduce yourself and maybe find some people that you have similarities with.
Mm-hmm.
Another way to live with people with similar interests or majors is through a living learning community. That you wouldn't go through a roommate group like we talked about, but that's a great opportunity to live with people if you are maybe in ROTC or if you are in engineering or business. There's all sorts of living learning communities, and we can drop a link to that in the comments so you can learn more about that.
And we can talk more about that at the end of the show.
We can. If we
Yes.
have time, we're going to go through our roommate group.
All right, so we'll go back to the demonstration. So when you submit your application or your request to, or when I should say, when you invite someone to join your group, they will get an email to their USF email account. Can't stress that enough. To their USF email account saying that Screen Demo invited you to join the roommate group, Screen Demo. You can go to your portal, and then as Screen Test, you can go log in, go to the roommate group manager, and either agree to join or decline to join. And so when you do that, and this is the part I love, if you agree, everybody in the group gets an email saying, Screen Test has agreed. If you decline, everybody in the group gets an email saying you've declined. If you accept and then later on go in and decline, everybody's going to go in and get an email saying that you declined. So there shouldn't be any surprises. Now, I've formed this group. You know what? I don't want to be in a group anymore. I want to be a loner. So I'm going to click leave. Are you sure you want to exit? And disband the group. Because what this means is, as the leader, the person who organized the group, if you decide to leave it, everybody's out. So if I click yes or okay, there we go. Now I have no group, and Screen Test no longer is even invited to it.
That's so sad. Is it possible to pass the baton over to somebody else in your
It is
group?
not possible. You'd
So
have
they
to
need
form
to
a new group.
Redo it. Okay.
Now, roommate groups are great, but remember what we said. You can join a roommate group without having that third step done. You don't have to have the orientation done in order to form your roommate group.
Right.
However, you need that third step done to select a room. And so you could have your group of 3 friends joining you in a group of 4, go to log in to do room selection, and only 2 of them are showing up in room selection because that third person didn't complete all their steps in order to be ready to assign. Which means now you're a group of 3. And you can select a room, or you can log out, talk to your friend, make sure they complete everything before you go in and select your room. Because once you select your room, it doesn't matter that that 4th person is part of the roommate group. They're going to have to go in as an individual and hope that that bed's still available.
Right.
If you're even able to select a room, a group of, an apartment with 4 people.
Right, because with the
as
structure,
only 3.
Yeah, but the structure right now in the very beginning, you'll only see 3 options.
Right. You won't see the ability to put 3 people into a 4-person apartment until the general phase,
Right.
when you don't have to fill the entire unit in order to select it.
Right. So, should the person with the earliest time for room assignment be the roommate group manager?
It doesn't need to be, you don't need to be the manager. but the person with the earliest time should be the one doing the selection for you.
Right, but anyone can do the
Anybody in the
selection.
group can do the selection, but only one person can do it. So if we're in a roommate group, we broke the rule and we made it anyway. If you go in and select for both of us, I can't go in and change it.
Right. But I didn't have to be the one to form it.
You didn't have to be the one to
I would
form
just be the-
just whoever.
So automatically, whoever has the earliest time should be the one
Right,
that's
and
sitting
if
in
you, if for some reason the person with the earliest time is not available, then it's going to have to be somebody else, but you run the risk.
there. And if you're an ACE student, you're given an orientation, not signing up for one, right?
A students still have to sign up for orientation,
Okay.
but they only have one choice.
Right.
It's the orientation
They do need to
as
register.
part.
though.
They still have to register. It's just they only get one option because they come in and move into their summer assignment and then do the orientation.
And are roommate groups available for summer terms?
Let me get back to you on that one.
Oh, we don't know.
Summer's a difficult
Yeah.
process because there's so many. My gut is I would like to make it available. I need to make sure that it's going to be possible before I do it.
Right. And even if it's not, if roommate groups aren't an option, it's obviously less people living on campus.
Right.
So if you want to live with someone, the likelihood of finding a space for the two of you during room selection is higher than if
Right.
everyone went in for fall. Okay, so I'm going through a couple of the ones that I missed earlier but I'm going to try to stay on topic here with roommate groups and room selection. If I was accepted for the summer semester and will transition to the fall semester, how should I approach my housing application? So we talked about this earlier. You'll want to submit 2 housing applications, one for summer and then one for fall.
As a matter of fact, the way we set up the applications this year, if you are a summer admit and you did the fall application first, at the end of the application it says, hey, you haven't done your summer yet. Do you want to do your summer because you're a summer admit? And you can click a link and take you right to the summer applications.
Love it.
And we did similar things with those who did summer, haven't done a fall yet. They'll be able to see the fall application, or they should be able to. I have to double check on that.
And we did not get this question yet, but we get it every year, and I'm sure everyone watching will benefit from the information. If you are living on campus for the summer and living on campus for the fall, you will likely have 2 different assignments.
Yes.
It is possible, potentially. What does it look like this year? Because it's a little bit different this year.
I wish I could tell you. I don't know what buildings I'm
Right.
using
We don't
yet.
know what summer buildings will be, but something to just keep in mind is only a limited number of our buildings are open for the summer terms. So the likelihood of you having the same assignment for the summer and the fall is not likely. We do close for how many days in between summer and fall?
5.
5 days that
6 maybe.
you are not in your space anymore. So even if you wanted to keep your stuff in the space, if you happen to have the same room, you would need to pay for a break
What we call
stay.
a break stay. Yeah.
Break stay. So it's a little bit more complicated.
Anybody can do break stay. From
Yes, you would just
spring
move
to
your items
fall,
over.
or a spring to summer, or summer to fall. It's just that you would have to move to your new assignment on the day we indicate.
Right. So if you're living on campus for the summer and the fall, and you're out of state and you really just do not want to have to move all your items out and find somewhere for 5 days, then move it back in.
Well, summer's 12 days. From
Summer to fall.
summer to fall is 12 days.
Okay, that's what I meant. I was like, 5 days seems quick, but either way, for
That's
that period
spring.
of time, you can do break stay, which you pay for the nightly rate of your new room to be able to move in early and put your items there. Even if you're not planning on living there, you just want to put your stuff down, you still need to pay for the nightly
Right.
rate. Okay, so we have a few minutes, and what I'd like to do is talk about living learning communities. So
Great topic.
it is a great topic, and we're just starting to push out information about that, so you'll get some more links via email to start exploring them. We have great resources on our website to learn more about them. But I kind of just dropped the name of it without explaining it. Can you give a little explanation of what a living learning community is?
Sure. So, we don't call them dorms anymore. We call them residence halls.
I knew that.
So, because dorm stands for dreary old room of mine. But residence hall is where you learn and you explore and you really live life.
Yes.
And so part of that whole exploration and learning is that we offer you a learning community, which is a community of people who are maybe in the same major, or have the same interest. And so the example I love to use is ROTC.
Yeah.
Now, for those who don't know what ROTC, it's Reserve Officer Training Corps, I believe, is what ROTC. And so these are college students who are going to, they're on the GI Bill or whatever, and they're going to be going into, they're in the military, but they're doing college first, and then they're going to, when they graduate, they're going to be officers. So the Reserve Officer Training
Yes.
Corps. And so they're still in the military, so they're getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go do PT, physical training.
Yep.
And when they didn't have their own floor, because I was here before they had their own floor or floors,
You had some
they
grumpy
would be
roommates.
getting up and there'd be some cranky roommates because my roommate keeps getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go run. and so when I drive in the mornings,
I see
around
them
7,
finishing up
7:30,
in the morning.
They're running around campus.
Yeah.
And they're already tired because they've already been running for an hour. So
You're really selling the ROTC program here, Dave.
well, hey, I was actually talking to someone at orientation, and their daughter joined the military, and so she's in the reserves. I'm like, she may not be able to be in ROTC, but she should get to know them and have
Yeah.
someone to work out with because she still has to be in shape.
Well, it's a perfect example of what you're saying. Like, so your schedules are aligning. So that's
Yep.
just one example for ROTC. Other things are like, if you are in engineering or Bull's business or something like that,
Living
you have
with other engineering students.
you're living with people that are in the same classes, they're studying the same content, and you have resources that are available to you through like faculty and residents and different events and opportunities that you can go out to as a group. There's also the interest one, so ROTC falls under interest. Then there's the Stonewall Suite, which is LGBTQ plus and allied students that have a safe space that they live together. And so there's just really awesome opportunities through
Yeah,
all of the
and
LLCs.
for those that are major based, or even like the ROTC, there are opportunities to be involved in your field that you're looking to get into.
Yeah.
So, Bull's business community, the BBC, they bring in business leaders from the Tampa Bay region to
they
talk
go
to
out
their students.
and do like connections in the
Yep,
community.
and they go out and similar things with engineering, similar things in honors. ROTC, they go to MacDill Air Force Base and they learn a little bit more there.
Yeah, it's great having that in the backyard too.
Or others come here and they talk about life in the military or specific duty stations in the military where they have to learn specific skills. And the great thing about ROTC is here that you're not just living with Navy or you're not just living with Army or not just
You learn everything.
you're living with all the armed forces,
Yeah.
and so you're learning that interoperability as well,
Yeah, that's invaluable. That's a really great experience.
which will be key as you go higher in command.
Yeah.
And then you can work at a place like Central Command here in MacDill,
Yeah.
where you're dealing with not just one service. You're dealing with all, and for those who don't know, the Korean War or the Vietnam War was run from Tampa.
I didn't know
At Central Command.
that. Interesting.
That's where a lot of the orders were given. I know, weird, halfway across the world.
Yeah.
But that's where the generals were that were given the orders.
Well, there's definitely a lot of learning opportunities, whether it be through the ROTC or any of the living learning communities. So definitely recommend checking those out. And just for those that may be interested in exploring that a little bit more, to clarify with the application, so you apply for housing and you pay the $50 application fee, register for orientation. Living learning community applications are separate than the housing
They are a
application.
separate application, but you don't need to pay your app fee.
You could just submit it right now. Do you need to apply for housing though, right?
You need to apply for housing, but once you do your application for housing, then you can do your application for an LLC.
Okay. And when do you find out if you've been accepted?
It really depends. They've already accepted 20 people.
Okay. And we just started.
71 applications have been submitted so far. They probably have almost 1,000 opportunities depending on which organization. Some are smaller, some are larger, which LLC. But overall, they have anywhere from 900 to 1,000 beds, I think, for their programs. And so I think right now, engineering, I think, is already accepted. I think they have 24 applications already pending, and they've already accepted, I think, 5 or so. So they're already well ahead. And they have 100, and if you count the women are
rising in engineering.
Yeah, rising engineering. If you count the engineering and the women are program, they have 102 beds combined.
Okay, so you submit that LLC application. You should find out.
Hopefully within a month.
So do you find out before room selection? And if you haven't, should you go ahead and select a room just in case?
It's a great question. You may or may not find out before room selection. If you don't find out before room selection and you know that I'm going to live on campus, whether I'm in the LLC or not, select your room.
Yeah, just
and
in
we
case.
will move you to the LLC once you're accepted to the program. If you're not sure you want to live on campus unless you're in the LLC, don't select a room.
Because then you're locked in.
Yeah. And if you don't select a room and you get accepted to the LLC, we're going to assign you because you gave us permission in the application for the LLC to be assigned, which means once we assign you, you're locked in.
So say that again, if you are not accepted to an LLC.
If you are
accepted to an LLC,
but you didn't select a room,
then you will be
assigned, which will lock you in because part of the application for the LLC says, I understand you're going to assign me once I'm accepted.
But what if you apply for an LLC and you decide you don't want to be in that LLC?
Just tell them before you get assigned.
Okay, so that's an important
Because if you get assigned and then you tell them, we'll move you out of the LLC, but we're going to put you somewhere else.
Okay, that's a very important note. And if you applied for an LLC last semester and are on a wait list, do you have to reapply?
Yes.
Okay.
But definitely reach out to the LLC as well.
Right, and let them know that you've gone through the process. And if you are a current LLC member, do you need to reapply for next year?
Yes.
Okay.
Some LLCs don't even take non-FTSs.
The second.
So you want to, if you didn't have the opportunity to participate this year, but you still are interested, reach out to the LLC because they do have some spaces for continuing students. Rising Health is one that just created, I think they have 8 beds set aside for continuing students, and all the rest are first time in college.
Okay. Another question, not LLC related, but going back to ACE. Just to clarify, do the summer ACE students select their fall rooms in February, or do they wait to find out their summer room first?
You'll select your fall room first. And what we'll do is, for the summer, we'll assign you for summer. However, we'll assign you with your roommate.
Okay.
So we'll try to keep that roommate pair together for the summer. We do the same thing with the SSS program.
Okay.
So they'll select their fall assignment, and then we'll try to keep their roommate together in whatever building they're living in for summer.
Beautiful. And now this is not a question, but you have a shout out here, Dave. Someone says, hi, Dave from Long Island, New York.
Oh, wow. I miss Long Island.
Yeah. There you go. Fan from Long Island. Thanks for tuning in. So we are at time now. So I really appreciate you spending your evening with us answering all of these questions. And I appreciate you all tuning in and asking all your questions. There's so much to talk about. We could go on for hours more.
We'll be back in 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
February 1st. Don't know how far away that is. 2 weeks, I guess. We'll be back.
Today's what, the 11th?
The 11th, that's
3 weeks.
3 weeks. 3 weeks from today, we will be back here. We talked a lot about roommate groups tonight. We're going to talk about room selection next time.
Yeah, so definitely, tonight, in about an hour, the
you have all these people now, Dave, watching. You have to
live.
do it. You now have to go
That's
home
right.
and do that.
But I can tell you that at the end of the selection period, 1,800 plus, almost 1,800.
Wow.
Signed up to be part of a roommate group. Now, once you're assigned, and we didn't say this, once you're assigned, there's no point in joining a roommate group because the roommate group is kind of done once you're assigned.
So if you have a space, a
So-
single space, like a space alone without a roommate group.
Right. So let's say you select a room and I want to live with you. It's not joining we don't form a roommate group. I try to move into the same unit that you're in. That's what I would do then.
Yeah, you would just have to hope that the space next to me is
Right.
open.
So like with that example before where not everybody was ready for assignment, if I had went in and just assigned the 3 that were ready, the 4th person, it doesn't matter that they're in a roommate group. They would just have to try and get into that 4th spot in the apartment.
Yeah, fingers
or the
crossed.
suite. And it definitely fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Because apartments go fast.
So just be prepared, communicate, talk to the people that you want to live with. Join that group if you're looking for someone that you're interested in living with. And I think that a good note to end on is that having a random roommate, we call them randoms, that's can sound like maybe a scary thing, but honestly, there are so many success stories from it. You may hear the scary stories,
I had
but
5.
5 that you're
I was in a triple when I was in my first semester. So I had 2 roommates, didn't know who they were. One was I think they were both from Queens, New York. Different parts of Queens. They were fine.
they were fine.
My next semester, because I had to leave, I got mono. It's a terrible thing. Don't get mono in your first semester.
Wow, really?
Next semester, I was in a
spilling
new
some
room.
details here, Dave.
Because I was D-tripled, and I got a different roommate. Then I broke my leg. I had a rough year.
We're spiraling, people. We're
so
spiraling.
I had another random,
Is this a happy story?
and then I had another random and another random. Well, another random, and then I knew the last guy. Last 2 guys.
Okay, so and how did that go? Everything was.
I still get Christmas cards from some of them.
That's what I'm looking
So,
for.
and that is 30 years later.
Yeah,
40
and
years later, almost.
my story's a happy story. I have been in the weddings of the people that I was random roommates with. I have
was best man for
friends.
3 of them.
Best friends. So as sad as your story sounded in the beginning, it's a happy story.
It is.
Random roommates can turn into lifelong friends. They really can. It's just about going in with an open mind. You're going to meet a lot of people from all different backgrounds, and it's an exciting time. And just to have that mindset ready to share space with someone. It's definitely new if it's not something you've done before, but
it's
it's a
about
good
compromise.
experience. It's compromise. It's always a great experience. It's just how you go into it with an open mind, I think, is definitely important.
And we'll talk more about that in 3 weeks.
We will, but
Because it's important.
One thing to keep in mind, though, if you have questions, you don't have to wait 3 weeks to ask us live. We have a team that is answering phone calls, answering emails. You can reach us by phone. Is it 9 to 4? Is that
9
when
to 4 is our phone hours.
the phone hours?
You
We're
can
answering.
walk
Walk in from 9 to 4 on the Tampa campus. You can send an email at any point.
Tours starting up again soon?
Tours are up, so you can come and
Okay,
take a look.
there we go.
We have a lot of people living on campus right now, so we have limited spaces
Yes.
that we can show. But you can sign up for a tour on our website too, and we can show you a space on campus.
Admitted Student Day is January 28th.
That is a great thing
So
to plug
there's
there
another.
too.
Actually, they reach capacity.
Oh, for January 28th,
They
there's
reach
one
capacity
February
for
18th
sign up.
and March 11th.
Correct. So there are other opportunities to actually talk to us in person,
Yep.
not just online.
You can come onto campus and learn from all different departments too, not just housing. So that's also on the website to learn more about that.
I work every Monday through Friday, seems like. So
Yep.
I don't take a lot of days off.
Maybe Monday through Monday is what your weeks have been looking like
Just
lately?
about, yeah. We did open last weekend, so
We
I
did.
I
We're
worked a couple
open
days
for
there.
spring. But we do appreciate the late night tonight, Dave, you talking
Anytime.
with us. And how would someone reach your team by phone or email, though, before we...
You can always email us at housing@usf.edu. You can call us at 813-974-0001, because we are number 1
Number 1.
on campus. And once you activate all your accounts, you can always Teams us, and so we can actually do a video chat via Teams if you have a computer that's got a webcam. And so you can always send us an email and arrange a time to talk to us.
Yep.
And if that's easier for your one-on-one assistance, and I've often done screen shares with students and their families to help guide them through the application process. And
That's
so,
a large offer there. Personalized
kinda like what we
screen
did
demo by
here,
Dave Kloiber.
but I've done it with people across the world,
Yeah.
other countries even.
That's awesome. Well, you
So,
know where to find us. And
Yep.
thank you again, Dave, for taking the time
Sure.
tonight. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And until next time, go Bulls.